Kent Howard, and I'm the Client Relationship Manager within Quest Software. And I'm joined today by Christy Carnley, our Product Manager. We're going to get started here right away. We have nearly 500 folks signed up for the webinar today. So there's a lot of you as excited as we are in delivering you the brand new version 16. Version 16 has been a 15-month project. Just hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of hours of development time with over 135 new features. We've probably got several categories of folks attending with us today. We've got some that are already on version 16, and some that have already attended one of our webinars. And then some of you, this is going to be the first time you've seen version 16, and you're either scheduled or going to be doing your upgrade to version 16 here very shortly. So welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to see this. We're super excited to show it to you. I do want to mention to anybody that is already running version 16, I know we have a couple of hundred that are already running version 16. So if you're in attendance, please note, Christy's going to show us if she can open roomMaster real quick. Just want to go over something real quick with it. Just know that we put out updates to the software, and especially after 15 months of development, it's just normal that we're going to run into some issues. We've had some issues already reported. We've already corrected those, and are going to hold the release until January 21st, which is next Wednesday. And you'll see Christy, what she just did is went to the Help drop-down menu and selected Check for updates to see if there is an update available. And then she also clicked on the Open Issues. So you can see right here that we do report those. We list them right here for everybody to see them. So it's super, super important. If you discover something in version 16, come here first. Make sure it's something that we're not already aware of. And also make sure it's something we already haven't fixed. So if we have fixed it, then you can just do the update to the next release and resolve that issue, and that'll save you from having to contact our support team. So again, super simple to do. These upgrades don't take very long. A minor release like this, you'll be down for just a matter of minutes. So you can download that and then get everybody out and run that upgrade. So super important that you do that. Also want to make a big reminder, the next webinar that we're doing next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, that webinar we're going to do a real exclusive look at our brand new hosted booking engine called IQ Webbook. So get super excited about that. It is really, really great, using the latest technology, the latest web features that are available. You're going to be super, super pumped about what you see with that. So make sure you attend and see that next week. Also wanted to mention that we put out a brand new release of IQ Anywhere. So any of you that have IQ Anywhere, you should be running version 3 of IQ Anywhere. You should be running version 3.23. If you remember, if you do use IQ Anywhere, you know that that product auto updates itself. So that release will slowly go out over the next 2 days, so we hit all of our IQ Anywhere installs. And if yours is not updating, wait a couple of days and make sure, then contact your local support team and we'll make sure that it is. We'll check that task and make sure that's running correctly. Well, without any further ado, I am going to turn it over to Christy so she can show you all these new features. We've got a ton of stuff to show you. We're super excited. But I want you to bear with Christy for us today. She's, like a lot of us in the office, I think she's the last one to get it. She's gotten sick. Her voice is failing her. She's going to struggle on and be the champ that she is.
Run statements, and you want to check to see what you currently have in-house. So if we go to current folios, this will show you a display of each folio that's currently in-house that is set to be direct billed, and it'll show you what company. So for example, if I were getting ready to run statements for InQuest software and I see that I have Taylor Banks in-house right now scheduled to check out tomorrow, then I may want to wait 1 day until I run statements so that I can include that particular folio that's going to be direct billed tomorrow rather than running them today. So it's just an easy way to see exactly what's currently in-house. You can also go to the company or go to the folio from right here. So if you wanted to pull up that folio to actually see the charges that are listed on that folio, or check it to make sure that everything is correct before it gets direct billed tomorrow, so you don't run into an issue of still having to wait on the statements, you can do so. And then also you can click on Go to Company, and it just pulls up the company that is associated with that particular folio. You also have an option here to say only show those that are over the credit limit. So it looks like all of ours are over credit limit because we have 0 on our credit limits, but you can also see where you have people set to be direct billed that are currently in-house, and the company is actually over their credit limit. So you may want to contact the front desk, put a note on there to obtain a different form of payment from the guest rather than being a direct bill. And then, so that's the current folios. Then if we go into current transactions, same thing. If you wanted to see what is current today that is sitting to be waiting to post to the city ledger, because as you know, everything that gets entered today on the current date actually posts during the night audit. But maybe you're getting ready to run statements and you just want to double check and make sure, is there anything sitting there waiting to post, and you want to go ahead and do a post now on those. So if you come in, you look at current transactions, you can expand these, look at them to see which company it's going to, and then if you wanted to go ahead and post today's items so that those go ahead and post to the city ledger, then those would be posted, and you can then run statements so you know that those have actually posted. Then we added a lot of opportunities to make changes to what is printing on your city ledger statements and what is printing on folios that are printed as a company bill rather than as a folio. So if we go into city ledger setup, you have some additional options. We'll go to override address first. So for example, my database is Blue Lagoon Suites. So my test demo property is called Blue Lagoon Suites. But perhaps your management company, or you have several properties that are all going through one accounting office. So when you send out city ledger statements, you want those payments to go back to one central location. You don't want it to come directly back to the property. In previous versions, you had the option of using the statement message to put in a different address to say, please remit payment to a different address. Well, now as of version 16, you can do an override. So you can override the company. So for example, I did an override of Inquest Software. And so in my database, the name of my property is Blue Lagoon Suites. That's how roomMaster is registered. But when I send out a city ledger statement, I want it to say Inquest Software. You can override the street, city, state, and zip, phone, fax, email, and web. And whatever you're putting in here, then it's just overriding how the software, which you have listed under setup configuration, as far as your registered property name, registered address, and phone, fax, email, web. So maybe the only thing you want to change is just the email and web. Instead of it being info@Blue Lagoon Suites, which is what you put on your normal folios for any guest that's not a direct bill, you want it to be billing@inquest.com. So you want any inquiries to come back to billing, then you could override the email or web address. When you're setting these overrides, you have the ability to say also use this on folios when printing as a city ledger invoice. So we gave you a lot of flexibility there. You can only override just on your city ledger statements and leave your city ledger invoices, so any folio that you're checking to print as a city ledger invoice, leave that using the property name. Or if you would like for those to also use whatever you've put in the overrides, you can do so. Then the tax ID overrides, this will be most likely used outside of the U.S., but if you are doing any type of tax ID, then you can say do not print the customer tax ID when the guest folio is printed as a city ledger invoice. You can suppress the customer tax ID on city ledger invoices and memos, and you can suppress the tax ID on city ledger statements. So if you're only required to put your tax ID on a guest folio, but you are not required to put it on any of your City Ledger printouts, then you have these 3 checkboxes that give you some additional options for what can be suppressed. In addition to that, we also gave you the ability to override the folio message. So when you are printing a folio as a City Ledger invoice, and this is, I'll show it in just a moment, but this is the checkbox under More Options when you go to print a folio. Normally you have the 3 lines that you've got that print on the bottom of the folio. Those are configured in Configuration on Folio Setup. If you want to override that and have it say something different, so for example, I put payment due in 30 days. I still put thank you for choosing Blue Lagoon Suites and we appreciate your business, and that may be the same thing that you have on the 2nd and 3rd line of your folio message, but rather than it saying thank you for staying or here's your final receipt, no, this is a bill, you're sending this as a City Ledger invoice, so you want it to say payments due in 30 days. So you just check this box and you can use the 3 lines to put whatever you would like to in there, and then whenever you print a folio as a City Ledger invoice, it will print this information. So if we say okay here, just exit the City Ledger for a moment. If we go into a folio, and so we'll pull up Harrison Ford. So he's set to direct bill. So if I go into print and More Options, I can say print as City Ledger invoice. So this is what I was talking about. So when we do a print preview on this, notice, actually I've neglected to remove my image. I'll do that in just a moment, but notice that the bottom portion is different. So it says the payment due in 30 days. Normally what we have set up to put on there, give me one moment. I neglected to remove the image, so we won't be able to see the name changing. Okay, so normally if I don't print this as a City Ledger invoice, we do a print preview, it's going to say the Blue Lagoon address, it's saying thank you for staying with us, and we have a please sign here. But when I check the box to say print as a City Ledger invoice, then the overrides are taking effect. So now it's using the Inquest software, putting in the direct bill account information here rather than the guest information, and across the bottom using that override. So it gives you a lot more flexibility, especially if you want payment remitted to a different address. And the same thing with your City Ledger statements. For your City Ledger statements, so if we pull up, for example, let's just pull up somebody who has a balance, we'll pull up Chuck's account. So when we print a statement, then it's going to show the Inquest software. So rather than Blue Lagoon, we're doing an override, and it's pulling in all of the information from the override. We added an additional option, so if we go back to the City Ledger setup, and again that override was all in the setup, so you're doing that under City Ledger setup. We added an option to omit the reference field on City Ledger statements. So if we go under statement defaults, you've always had the option to say to choose whether or not you wanted to show the reference field, which is the reference field from the folio, which carries over from the reservation. So typically that's going to be, for example, if you're still doing direct bill to Expedia, that would be the Expedia reservation ID. As you know, that's required in order for Expedia to pay you. And then you had the option to say, instead of the reference field, you wanted to show the discount field. Well, now we added an option to say show neither. So if you don't need to include the reference or the discount, then you can say show neither, and it will just suppress it from the statement. So if we go back in and we run a statement, we'll pick on Chuck. So we run a statement, then it's just suppressing that field on the City Ledger statement. We, by popular demand, this was a suggestion that we had come in numerous times, so we have added the ability to, let me hide my inactive accounts, there we go. We have added the ability to list a credit card number, to store a credit card number on your company master. So if you are using the City Ledger for some type of monthly billing, or you have locals maybe that come to your property and use your facilities or eat in the restaurant, and they have an account set up with you, and so each month you're billing the same credit card, you now have the ability to put that credit card information onto the company master, and then it's stored there Of course, it's using full encryption, or if you plan to use tokenization once it's available after February 1st, then it will be a token that's stored. It won't be the full card number, but it is maintained on the City Ledger account, and you can use that for payments. So if we go ahead, I'm just going to put in test account here. And I say, okay, I have tokenization turned on, so it's going to tokenize the card. So notice that's stored, and it uses this, it's a credit card field. So whether you're using encryption or whether you're using tokenization, it handles it the same way. But it stores that credit card, and so if we go now, and let's say we're going to make a payment to Inquest, when you come in to make a payment, it's going to say the company has a Visa card on file. Do you want to use this with this payment? So you would just say yes, and then you would go through the payment wizard, and at the end is where the processing screen will come up automatically with Shift 4, and you'll be able to process that credit card. So like I said, that was a suggestion that we have received from numerous people, so that was another one that received applause at the conference in October. Also, we added the ability to do pop-up notes. So you're familiar with pop-up notes on groups and from guest profiles, but you can now do this from Company Master. It works in the exact same way. So if we go back to the Inquest software account, if we go over to the Notes tab, it's working in the same way that it does for groups. So you have options. You can say do not pop up. You can say pop up in reservations, pop up in folios, or pop up in both. So if there's information that needs to be conveyed when this direct bill or company, it can be done on company or for direct bills. So when this is attached to a reservation or when it's attached to a folio, if there's information, for example, here I said, only authorized employees can be direct billed. So that would be information that the front desk or reservation staff needs to know. So we've got it set to pop up on reservations and on folios. So if I enter reservation and I come over here and I attach the Inquest software, then it's going to automatically pop up a note, and it's going to tell you it's a direct bill note and displays that information. And as I said, you have the ability to do that for direct bill accounts as well as companies. So if it's only a company maybe that has a special rate, then you can do that on the company level as well. So for example, if I start another new reservation, it's not direct bill, but it's a company, then the note's going to come up and it'll tell you it's a company note. And so you can convey information, maybe who's able to get a special rate that's offered by that company. Additionally, this was another request that we've had, is the ability to make a direct bill account inactive but still maintain the ability to select it as a company on reservations for sales tracking. So for example, our Chuck account, it is a direct bill account, so this is grayed out. Obviously, once an invoice has been attached to it, it does gray out. So we've added, on the Payment Info tab, we've added a new checkbox that says direct bill no longer available. So so for example, if you decide, maybe the company decides they don't want to do direct bill any longer, all of their employees are going to have their own corporate card. That's what they want to use for payment. And so, but you still want to, maybe this company has a special rate, or you still want to be able to track sales and you want to maintain it all on the same record and not start a new record, then you just come in and check this option, and then that account cannot be attached to a reservation or a folio. So it would alert that it is not available to be used. So it's saying that the account cannot be used as direct bill any longer, so you can't use this account, but you could attach the account, and I'm just going to do 44 because I know it's 44. You can attach the account as a company and then obtain, of course, whatever form of payment. This is a Premier-only feature that I'm about to cover, but it is in the City Ledger, so I'm going to go ahead and cover it here since we're on the City Ledger. But this will be only available if you have the Premier edition of roomMaster. And on the Credit Info tab, you have the ability to now see future direct bill. So maybe you're negotiating with this company, they're negotiating with you trying to get a lower rate, and you want to quickly see, well, how much business do I have on the books right now for this company in the future? So when you click on this, it's going to tell you what your total anticipated revenue is, when the next check-in date is, when the next checkout date is, and then it's going to give you a forecast of what this company has coming in. So you could see tomorrow and then for the next months. And the month will display there, provided there is a reservation, or it could be a folio that's in-house that has that company attached to it. So it's just future direct bill based on checkout. And again, that's Premier Edition only. Just as a minor note, but this was a suggestion, under payments and adjustments, the system will now remember, so it sets in the workstation settings the list only with current balance. So if you are always having to check that, once you check it now, it saves it as a workstation setting, and so it'll remember it every time you come in here. So it's only going to display. So if you want to display everything, of course you'd have to uncheck the box. It's just going to remember whatever the setting is. While we're in the Payments Wizard, we made some enhancements to the Payment Wizard to assist you in knowing what type of payment you selected. So we'll use the Starbucks account. So click on Next. So I'm going to select to pay a check, and I didn't look to see what the balance was, but I know they sent me a balance to pay in full, so we added a handy option here to click Pay in Full. So you don't have to click back and say, oh, what was that total balance? Maybe the check's lay across from you. So you can click Pay in Full. It'll fill it in for you. We can put in the check number. I'm going to go next, next. Across the top, we added to show what form of payment you selected. So whatever account code you selected as the payment to use in this when you're posting the payment, it's just pulling in the account description. So that'll show across the top for you just to be helpful to see what's what the form of payment is. And then also we added a clear all option. So if you had, like if I pay invoice and I only have one invoice on this particular one, but if I had a lot of invoices and I've been going through paying and maybe I lost track of where I was at and I just want to start over, you now have a clear all button, and it just clears anything that you've clicked on to pay or any partials that you entered and starts over for you without having to cancel out and go back in. And then finally, under City Ledger, not really under City Ledger, but has to do with City Ledger, if you have a company attached to a folio, so it's not a direct bill, but it is a company, and maybe for some reason that company needs a receipt with their company name on it rather than the guest name. So the option is no longer grayed out. If there's a company attached to the folio, you can now select Print as a City Ledger invoice and not show the payment. So you can click on Print Preview and notice it's going to put in the company information instead of the guest information, and of course it's going to use any override that you've put in the City Ledger. And that's just, as I said, when you have a company only attached. It's always been available if you had a direct bill account attached. So that's all of the City Ledger enhancements that we didn't get to last week. So now we're going to move into part 2 of the general enhancements. And I know we had a lot of people asking about this particular enhancement that I'm going to cover actually second, because I'm going to tell you about something that was just added yesterday first. But the housekeeping assignments. I know everybody is really excited to see that, and we did not cover it last week and we had some questions. But before I get to that, if anybody's been paying close attention or has the toolbar memorized, you may see 2 new options up here that you have not seen before, and you wouldn't even see if you were currently running 16, because as I said, they were just added yesterday. So last week we covered the advanced options under the System tab. So we've added to the advanced options. You now have 2 additional options. You can have a sign on screen button show on the main menu. So if you have a hard time getting your desk clerks to sign out when they walk away from a front desk terminal, so if they have a hard time remembering the keyboard shortcut of Alt F3, or it's just too much for them to use the mouse to go to File Sign on Screen, we've added the ability to display the sign on screen button from the main menu. Also, if you have staff members that are maybe open environment and to multiple databases, maybe you have, you know, someone in accounting that is going, you've got multiple databases running on your network. We do have some properties that are doing that. They've combined all into one server. So we added the ability to put the open environment button directly on the toolbar rather than having to go file multi-environment. So if you're using that open environment quite often, all you would do is come in and make this say yes under advanced options, and then it'll display on the main menu. So that's what this is. All it's doing is pulling up the open environment screen, and then when you click on this, that just pulls up the sign-on screen so that it makes it really easy to sign in and out. Also, the sign-on was added from the main, so if you're in the main, from the main screen and you right-click, you can right-click and click on sign-on screen to be able to, that essentially logs you out before you walk away. So it makes it quick and easy rather than having to remember that it's under File, Sign On Screen, or use the keyboard shortcut of Alt F3. So moving on, the one of the bigger enhancements.
Are you doing okay? Can you move on?
I'm fine.
Are you doing okay?
Yes.
Okay, just check. Okay, cool.
Okay, so one of our main enhancements that we put into version 16, and I kind of broke apart, I didn't want to give you everything last week because I wanted everybody to come back, so is the custom associates report and the setup by assignment. We have enhanced this completely. It's completely different now and makes it a lot quicker and easier for you to do your housekeeping assignments each morning. So you still have, if you love the old way, using the setup by group, if you're comfortable with that, works great for you. We didn't take it away from you, so we would never take anything away. That's still there. But you also have a separate button here in version 16, which is set up by assignment. So this is a completely new screen, and let me make it a little bit bigger on the screen so you can easily see it. So it's a completely new screen, and basically it's like a kind of a drag and drop for you to be able to do your housekeeping assignments. So the first thing when you upgrade to version 16 that you're going to want to do is come in here and add your associates. So your associates are going to need to be added. So all of your housekeeping associates that you are assigning rooms to, you would just come in. So if we insert a new one, if we click on insert, of course, you're just putting in the associate's name and what department the associate works in. The sign-on initials would be if you have IQ Anywhere version 3 and your housekeeping staff is using IQ Anywhere on their mobile device, or maybe you have tablets for them. If they sign in, if they have a sign-in to IQ Anywhere, you want to put their initials that they're using. So whatever initials they use to sign into roomMaster and of course to sign into IQ Anywhere, put those here, and then once you've done the assignments, that associate can click on My Rooms under the housekeeping and IQ Anywhere and be able to see only their rooms. So if you're paperless and you don't want to have to print anything out, once you could come in and do the assignments, and they just go into IQ Anywhere to know which rooms they need to work on that day, which rooms are assigned to them that day, and then they can change the statuses and put them as inspection requested directly from IQ Anywhere. You can list a contact phone number and any notes, so like if Dale's afraid of heights and he only wants to work on lower floors, we could put that note in here just so you remember that. You could also mark an associate as inactive, so maybe you have some seasonal associates that only work during the high season and then are not working during the low season, so you can mark them as inactive so they don't appear when you're trying to assign. Then you do have the ability to do auto assigning, so you don't have to use the drag and drop option to be able to assign these. You can use we did create an auto assign, so you can put some options in here. If there's a maximum number of rooms that you want to assign, maybe we know that Dale's a little bit of a slow worker, so we'll only give him a max of 10 rooms a day, but he does a great job, so we're not going to knock him for not being fast. And then if he has a preferred zone, well, obviously he likes lower floors. So if we did our zones by floor, then we would say zone 1. because we want to keep him on a lower floor. So when we say okay, that just adds Dale in here. So like I said, the first thing you're going to do is come in and add in all of your associates when you upgrade to 16. Then each morning you're coming in and doing your assignments. So the first thing you would do is which associates are working that day. So we'll say that Christy's working, Dale's working today, Kent's working, and Robert's working. So we have 4 associates and we've added all of those. I was just clicking on the add button. So this is where you're kind of working from right here. And just today, we added an enhancement to this based on some feedback we received through support, and that's the ability to change the zone. So if you've listed a preferred zone, but maybe each day you want to use the auto assign, and the auto assign does look at the preferred zone. So each day when you come in, based on what associates are working that day and what zones you have, you want to change the zone. We've added the ability to do that. So down across the bottom, notice I'm highlighted on Christy. If I want to change that to zone 3, and so then maybe I want to change Robert to zone 5, and Kent's going to be at zone 2. So if that fluctuates daily and you don't really go by a preferred zone for your associates, then you just add the associates and then select which zone you want to use for the auto assignment for that particular day. So as I said, we can use the auto assign. So when you use the auto assign, you can say assign by preferred zone or floor first. So whatever is listed here. Then you can also have the system try to assign an even number of stayovers and checkouts. It will do its best. And then if you've got some assignments in there already, maybe from yesterday, and you've got the same associates that are working today, you can tell the system to clear all assignments first. So if we just say okay, then what the system did is it went through and assigned, it goes through and looks at the preferred zone first. So notice Dale got all first floor rooms. Kent's set for zone 2, so he got all second floor rooms. Robert he got the leftovers. Now he got zone 5, and then the system's trying to put an even number of rooms. It's trying to spread it out based on the minutes and number of rooms, so it's not always going to only include just the preferred zone. And then for me, I had zone 3, so I do have a couple on the first floor just to even things out. But let's say, for example, that you don't want me to have those first floor rooms, so you can highlight that room and you can say unassign. So I didn't want the auto assign to do that. So now it moves these back over here. This just means that these rooms over here are not assigned at all. So then if I want to take maybe the 7th floor room and the 2 first floor rooms, and I want to give those to Kent, so I just highlight those. Notice I'm just dragging over and dropping them. Then the zone 9 room, I'm going to go ahead and give that to me, so I'm dragging and dropping. You do have the icons here so you can see what is, of course, if it has a suitcase, it is a stayover, so it's an occupied room that's a stayover. If it has the little door, that means it's an occupied room, which is a checkout today. And then, of course, your yellow diamond is your vacant dirty. Vacant clean rooms and unavailable rooms do not show in the assignments because typically you're going to be working with vacant dirty rooms, obviously, rooms that have already checked out or rooms that checked out that weren't cleaned yesterday, and occupied rooms that are checking out today, and then also your stayovers. So that's all that's going to appear in here. And once you get this all done, you do have, in the Premier Edition, you have a Display as Chart option. So when you click on Display as Chart, you can check your work if you like a visual display to be able to make sure that you've got these pretty evened out. So we can look at it by rooms. We can look at it by minutes, and this is just using the number of minutes that it takes for a stayover versus a checkout on each individual room number in the system. And we can look at it combined. So this is giving you the number of rooms and the number of minutes. So giving you a visual display to make sure you've got everything evened out. And we can pull it down to just a summary here, or we can do detail, or you can individually do those. But once you're done, you can click on Finish. And then we say OK, and it's just going to print the associates report for, whoops, I included clean rooms. Let's take off my clean rooms. Okay. So it's just going to print. So like there's all my rooms for Dale. There's all my rooms for Kent. And there's all my rooms for Robert. So it's just pulling it out, and then these are appearing because I checked them in today. I know why these are appearing now. These are my stayovers that actually are occupied, and they checked in today because obviously I was getting ready for the demo, so I checked a bunch of stuff in this morning. Normally when you're doing your housekeeping reports, unless you had a 4 o'clock or a 5 o'clock in the morning check-in, you wouldn't have any check-ins, but that's the reason these aren't assigned, because they don't actually require service today. So we go back in here. You do have the ability then at the end of the day, so once your housekeepers are reporting back in, and maybe if you normally clean all the rooms in roomMaster, you're not using IQ Anywhere or the phone or anything, so you can come back in, and let's say Christy just turned, she just turned her sheet in and said, I'm done for the day, all my rooms are clean. So you can come back in here, highlight Christy, and click on Clean, and it's just going to clean all the rooms and unassign them. So I'm ready to go tomorrow, so in case I'm working tomorrow. So if we click on Dale, if Dale turned his in, we click on yes, it just cleans all those rooms, changes them from vacant dirty to vacant clean, and unassigns them, so it's ready to go for the next day. Of course, you have a remove all button, so if you come in the next morning, you don't have the same associates working today that you had yesterday, you can click on remove all. That just clears all assignments and removes all associates. So it puts everything back over to the left-hand side, and then you can start adding back in employees for that day. Also, we gave you the ability to filter. So if you are a fairly large property, or let's say you don't want to use the auto assign, you want to be able to work with each zone at a time. So you can filter and say, I only want to see my zone 1s, or I only want to see my zone 5s, to filter the screen down so there's less on there to give you the ability to work with each individual zone if you don't want to use an auto assign, if you don't want the system to automatically do it. So that's the housekeeping assignments, and again, that's available under the Custom Associates report. And then while we're on this report, we did make some enhancements to the Custom Associates report and the Associates report. You can now draw lines in between the rooms. So if you want to make these reports easier to read for your housekeeping staff, you can draw lines every 1 room, 2 room. You're just putting how many rooms do you want before there's a line drawn. So if I do 2, it might be a little bit easier to see. And so it's just doing a line for every 2 rooms on the report when you run the report. I'm not sure how difficult that is to see through the presentation. And then you also have the ability to include meeting rooms. So if you have meeting rooms set up in roomMaster, and you have those as a room type, and those are something that get assigned, then you can say include meeting rooms, and meeting rooms will be included on your housekeeping reports. Additionally, the maintenance report we added to the housekeeping reports menu, so you can now print the open items maintenance report from housekeeping reports directly from the housekeeping screen, or if you're under the reports menu and you're looking at housekeeping, you can print it from here as well. So you no longer have to go under front desk maintenance items to print that report. It just made it a little bit easier to find. Also, we made the unavailable, once a room is still in an unavailable status, and it's already set to become available. So once the date is either today or a day in the past when it was set to become available for forecasting purposes, we changed the icon because you need a warning on that, because basically when you come in, and I'll explain what I mean. So let's say we're taking 121 and we're going to make it unavailable. So if we come in and we say mark as unavailable, the first thing the system asks you is, when does this room become available? And that date that you're putting in there, that's when it's putting this room back into your forecast. So that's when it's saying, for forecasting purposes, that when you're making reservations, this room is available to be sold. So maybe we're taking this room out until the 17th, and then of course we're putting in a reason. So we'll say the AC is not working. So we just changed that to an unavailable status. So that means it's pulled out for forecasting purposes. So now if we went and looked at our forecast, we're down 1 DLX until the 17th. Well, once the 17th arrives, so like if we look at room 115, today is the 15th. and it's set to become a back-end service on the 15th. So it highlights what they try, a warning triangle, so that you know that room needs to be checked. It either needs, the date needs to be pushed out, or it needs to be brought back into service if it's ready to go. Because as you know, the system will never take an unavailable room and automatically flip the status on it, for the simple fact that it could be that room's still not ready and the system's not going to automatically do that. So you'll see it on the housekeeping screen. There's several places we put this. Housekeeping screen, availability screen. So if we scroll down to 115, you'll notice it's right here, and the quick room screen. So we look at room 115, it's right there as well. So it's in multiple places. And so for example, if 115, if it were still needing to be out of service, so it's unavailable until today, so what we could do is we could change it to dirty first, and then reset our unavailable. So if it still needs to be out of service until the 17th, as long as we come in and we change that, of course it goes back to a red diamond. So it's just an indicator on there. Also, if you're not using a phone system to update the status of your rooms, maybe you do it in the system to manually set an inspection requested or housekeeper in room flags. You can do that directly from the room properties. So we're right here on Quick Room. We could do it from here. We could do it from the housekeeping screen. Essentially all you're doing is going into the room properties and you're going to the housekeeping tab. So you now have the ability to set an inspection requested. So if I say inspection requested, then that's putting that room into a status of it needs to be inspected. So for example, maybe your front desk showed this room and they let the guests go up to the room, and then the guests decided that they didn't want to stay, just wasn't what they were looking for. So the front desk staff wants to flip this to inspection requested to alert the housekeeping staff, because maybe they're still up on the floors, that this room needs to be checked to make sure that this guest didn't go up there and use the bathroom or move the towels or do something to the room. So you could, the front desk staff could set it as inspection requested, and then it's showing up for housekeeping. So if housekeeping is looking at either IQ Anywhere, or maybe they're using this screen to see what needs to be inspected, then they would see that this room is sitting in a vacant clean status and it's saying it needs to be inspected. Also, you can update the housekeeper in room from the room properties as well. So you've never, previously you could only do that through the phone system. Now you can do it directly from within roomMaster. You can also clear it, so it can be cleared in here as well. On the housekeeping screen, we'll go back to the housekeeping screen. I'm just going to close Quick Room really quickly. On the housekeeping screen, we added an arrival column. So you can visually see if there is an arrival coming in against that room for today. And then we also added a new tab, which is a clean priority. So basically it's telling you if there is an arrival coming in on that room today, and if it's currently in a vacant and dirty status, then it's going to appear here to let you know that these rooms have arrivals coming in, so they are already blocked against reservations. So these take priority. These need to get cleaned first before rooms that just need to be available for walk-in purposes. Also, this was something that we, there was a lot of suggestions for, and it's basically the routine maintenance items. So just to show you where these are at, if you're not familiar with them, setup, configuration, maintenance, talking about these routine tasks that you can put in. So you can put in routine tasks and you can say, I want to flip the mattresses every time a room has been used 30 times, or I want to change the AC filter every time a room has been used 45 times. So you can put these in, but sometimes you may have a case, and this has always been there, this is not new, but sometimes if you're using those, you may have realized that you may have a case where for a particular room number, maybe you had to change out the AC altogether. So you want to reset that AC filter because you just changed the AC. So you know you don't want a reminder to change the AC filter in a few days once it hits 45 states. You can now do that on the room number level. So if you right click and go to room properties and we go to routine maintenance items, notice I'm at 10 out of 30 on my flip mattress. Well, maybe something happened to that mattress and I had to replace it. So I don't really need to flip it in 20 uses. I want to wait and flip it in 30 uses. So I just come in and I say reset cycle count. And it'll reset the cycle count so it sets it back to 0 because I know I already did that and I don't need a reminder for this particular room. And of course, as you're clicking through, it's just asking what do you want to reset the cycle count for. So maybe you did a deep cleaning at the same time and we want to reset that cycle count. Again, that's on the room number level. So it's each individual room number that is tracking how many times it's been used based on those options that you've listed under routine maintenance items. Also, this came from the conference that we added the ability to, when you are doing out of service, so let's say you're putting rooms out of service for dates in the future, we added the ability to say on the range of rooms that you want to do even room numbers, odd room numbers. So maybe you're scheduling your deep cleanings during your off season, or you're scheduling your carpet cleanings during your off season, and you're doing one side of the hallway first and then the next side of the hallway. So you want to do a range of rooms. So like maybe we're doing the whole first floor, and whoops, I'm on 503. Let's say we're doing the whole. Let me go to the first floor. Here we go. So let's say we're going to put these out of service in the future in our off season, and it's going to be for carpet cleaning, and we want to do a range of rooms. So we want to do one side of the first floor. We only want to do odds though. So when you select odds, it's just going to take every room that ends in an odd number but in this range and put the out of service dates in there and skip any that end in an even number. Now the only caveat to this, of course, is if your room numbers are alphabetic or alpha characters instead of numeric, obviously the system can't determine what's an odd or an even based on alpha. So this only works when you use numeric room numbers. But when we say OK, then it goes through, so I put it in on 101. If we go into 102, we have no out of service. 103, we do have out of service. So again, within the range of rooms, we just gave you the ability to say even and odd to make it a little bit quicker entry. Really quickly, this is small, but something that I definitely want to mention. If you're using the lost and found, so if you enter lost and found items using front desk lost and found, and then once an item is claimed, maybe somebody calls and they say, I need this shipped to me. So once you go and you find that item, you want to attach the information from roomMaster. So maybe you went in and you put the owner's information in here. So you typed in their address to send it to, and you then want to print this out to be able to attach it to the item to take it maybe to your manager who's going to ship it the next day. We just added a print button. So you can print this and then be able to attach it to the item since you have all of the information contained in roomMaster. Okay. Room ready notifications. This is another big enhancement and something that has been requested a lot and got a lot of applause at the conference. I'll tell you, it was fun at the conference this year. We got more rounds of applause than we've gotten probably in the last 3 conferences. Robert and I felt like celebrities at the front. But basically with the room ready notification, this gives you the ability to text someone or email them when their room is ready. So very often it happens, especially in resort areas, guests arrive at 8 o'clock in the morning and they think their room should be ready for them to check in. And you tell them that it's not, and then they're coming back at 8:30 and they come back at 9 o'clock and they come back at 9:30 and they're driving you crazy. So you have the ability to now say, you know what, we'll text you when your room is ready, or we'll email you when your room is ready. So once you receive that, come back to the desk and we'll be able to check you in. And the way we'll first, we'll go into the configuration so you can see how to turn this feature on. So it's under Setup, Configuration, Housekeeping, Room Ready Notification. So there is an option here that you'll check to say Allow Remote Notification when vacant. So once the room switches from, excuse me, from a vacant dirty status to a vacant clean status, then it's going to automatically notify that guest. When we go into the configuration, You have the option to allow or not allow SMS text messaging. One thing to keep in mind, and we even put it on the screen, it's important to read the help section before you configure this. There's a lot of information about sending SMS text messages and some information about where this feature is available. For sending the text messages, and the text message of course to a cell phone, this is only available within the United States and Canada. So if your property is located outside of the U.S. or Canada, then your option would be to use the email option. But majority of people receive email on their phone, so they're still going to get the alert on their mobile device or maybe on their tablet. So it's not as if they're not going to receive the alert, but it's just what we use to be able to send the SMS right now is currently only available in the U.S. and Canada. So you control whether or not you're allowing that. And then you can do a test message. So while that guest is standing right in front of you, you can send them a test and make sure that they receive it. That confirms that you have the right email address, that confirms that you have the right cell phone number, the right cell phone provider, that it's actually going to go through. So, and you kind of confirm to them that, hey, this works, you're going to get notified. Don't keep popping back up here to the front desk. Then you're putting in the guest message. So this is what is actually sent to the guest once the room is changed from a vacant dirty to vacant clean status. If you are using SMS text messaging, you want to keep these short. Remember, this is a text message. You don't need to write them a book. All you need to alert them of really is come back to the front desk, your room's ready. It's short and sweet. So you can use one variable in here, which is the room number. So if you want to tell them the room number, you can, or you can just say your room's ready, come back to the front desk. So when we say okay and okay, so if we pull up a reservation to be able to take a look at this, and let's pull up my reservation. Oops, I changed the status of my room when I did my batch cleans. Okay, so I'm just changing the status of the room back to vacant dirty. So when you pull this up, you'll notice you have a little cell phone indicator. This only pops up when the room is in a vacant dirty status, and or if it's still, even if it's still occupied, if maybe the person is there so early that the previous night's guest has not checked out yet. So when the status of the room is something other than vacant clean, and you have ready notifications configured in your system. So when we click on the little cell phone, here's your notify option. So you can say by email, and it'll automatically pull in the guest's email address from the reservation, or you can say by text message, and it's going to pull in the phone number. Now you may need to change that. So when the guest gives you their phone number, this is not my phone number, by the way, this is a made-up phone number. So when the guest gives you their phone number, you can put in the phone number and then click on providers. What the system's going to do is it's going to go out and try to get the provider. So you'd ask the guest, are you with AT&T? Probably the guest is going to say no, because a lot of times guests have switched people have switched their cell phone number through using number portability. So just because they switch carriers, they keep the same number. So the original owner of that phone number, the carrier that originally owned it, the number gets ported over. So if it's not correct and you hit the drop down, then you just select and say, okay, well, which provider are you with? And you're just selecting the correct provider. So maybe they say they're with T-Mobile. Then you can send them a test message. So when you click on send test message, it's just going to send through a test to make sure that they received it. So they should be getting a text on their phone right now, and that guest is standing in front of you, and it says, okay, yes, I received it. Okay, good, we have the right provider, we have the right phone number. We'll text you once the room is ready. So you just leave it at that and come back in here. Now let's say your housekeeping staff is the one that is flipping rooms to vacant and clean, and maybe they're doing that through IQ Anywhere, they're doing that through your phone system, or maybe they're actually doing it directly in roomMaster. It doesn't matter where it comes from. What the system is looking for is for that room number that's assigned to that reservation to change statuses to vacant clean. So I'm just going to do it from right here. As soon as, notice I'm spinning for a couple of seconds, because what's happening is the system is changing that to vacant clean, and at the same time it just sent a text message to that person that says your room's ready, come back to the front desk. So then that person can come back to the front desk and then they can go ahead and check in. So once you do the room ready notification on there, all it's looking for is just the status to change. Okay, I think we had a question pop up on the phone number. You want to just use, well, let me change the status again. You want to use no dashes, no parentheses. You're just typing in the phone number, just as is, and then clicking on providers, and it's going to do a lookup. So you do not have to do dashes. There's not a format that you're doing on that. It's not going to hurt it if you do, but you don't have to put the dashes in there. So I would train your staff just to type the number straight in there as is, and that way you don't run into any issues whatsoever to be able to send that text message.
Okay, so I'll just talk a little about this because there's a lot of questions, and I'll give Christy just a little bit of a break here. There's a lot of, as Christy said at the beginning, there's a lot of help text. So before you turn this on, read the help text because there's a lot of information there with a lot of the questions that are being asked. Does the guest get charged to text? If they're standing in front of you, giving you their phone, no, you're giving them a text, so it'd be up to them to know if they're being charged or not. You would not know. If they get charged text, then they get charged text. You don't want to be sending text messages to people that are not telling you to send them a text message. You don't want to use this for an advertising piece. You don't want to go texting people or doing this just randomly, or it's such a cool feature, you want to do it for everybody. If the guest is checking in and they're standing in front of you and you have the conversation that the room is not ready, you ask them if they want to text. They may say, no, I get charged for text, so don't do it. But that's the portion of the charging they are getting charged if that's part of their billing. In terms of you being charged, no. The reason you are not being charged is because you don't have an SMS account. You're not texting from a phone. You're texting from your computer, and that's the reason why you are selecting the provider in the right provider, because you are not sending a text message. You don't have a cell phone. What you're doing is you're using the relay service for that provider to get them that text message. So, but if it's email, that email is better because, of course, nobody gets charged for email. The email is going to go to people's iPhones or their Android phones or whatever. People check email just as much as they're checking their text messages. So if they may say, I get charged for my text message, can you send me an email? And you would just select email. Maybe you always want to do email. But that's the way that works. You either send them a message, or you send them an email, or you send them a text. There's no way, of course, to send them both. So I hope that answers most of the questions. And if this is being done to the EPI, or like the phone's getting cleared from the housekeeper in the room, or it's being cleared from the IQ Anywhere, or it's being cleared from workstation and housekeeping, it's no matter where they're clearing the room, when the room becomes vacant, so at the point that the room is being turned vacant and clean, whether from the EPI, from the IQ Anywhere, or from somebody just using a terminal, it's at that point that the SMS or the email message goes out at that time. I know there's a lot more questions, but again, we put a ton of help in there. So I think if you go to the help text on that, your questions, if I haven't answered your question, it's definitely going to be answered in there. And if not, then just call our support department and they'll help you. So I hope that helps.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, so moving on, because we're We're at the top of the hour, so moving on. We're going to go into the guest profile enhancements. We put a ton of work into this feature based on suggestions mainly that were coming in saying we need to be able to see what we're changing and the ability to ignore it, not do it, take it to the guest profile, take it from the reservation. So there is a completely new screen that is in the software. So if we just pull up a reservation, so say you're pulling up an existing reservation, maybe this reservation came in through roomMaster.net, or maybe it came in from one of your booking channels through your GDS provider or Expedia or Booking.com. So you're looking at this reservation once it's come in. Maybe this is when you're checking the guest in, so you're making some changes. You're confirming the address. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to make a change to the telephone number on here. So the guest says, no, that's not my phone number anymore. I have a new phone number, and I also have a new secondary phone number. So you update that information. As soon as you press OK, then it's going to come up and it's going to tell you what conflicts you have. So we have a conflict on the address, the city, the zip code, both phone numbers, and the email. So the system is saying, what do you want to do? Do you want to use the guest profile and update the current value? The current value is going to be the reservation. Do you want to use the current value? Most of the time you're going to want to do that because you probably just obtained that from the guest. So it's the updated information. The guest profile may be from a year ago when the guest stayed with you. So you would say use current value and update the guest profile so that the guest profile gets updated with all of this information. Or maybe you just want to completely ignore it. And so you don't want to make any changes. You want to leave what you have on the reservation and leave what you have on the guest profile and not make any changes. You have the option to hit ignore. You also can copy this information to the clipboard. So maybe you want to take a look at it later. You're not sure. You're like, oh, I'm going to look at this later. And so if you copy it to the clipboard, then if you just pull up Notepad, you can paste that. I'm not going to flip my screen because changing my screen around in here can make the display. But you can copy that. You can open Notepad and copy those changes and be able to take a look at it later. So we've really enhanced this to give your clerks and your staff the ability to properly update guest profiles or properly update reservations. Now, of course, for me, I'm going to say I'm going to use the current value and update the guest profile. So when I clicked on that, if we pull this back up, notice there's all my information, but now if I go to the profile is now updated with all that information. So it now has the updated information for the guest. So if I'm emailing or sending out letters or something based on my guest profiles, now I have updated information on the guest profile. So no matter what you're changing, whether it be the address, the city, and it's telling you what fields have actually changed to let you select whether or not you're going to pull that information in from the guest profile. Even if it's blank, if it's about to overwrite, then it's going to still come up on that screen and give you the option of whether or not you want to do that. The credit approval screen, for those of you that are using the Shift4 interface, this would only be if you have the Shift4 interface that this is going to pertain to you. But we made a lot of enhancements to the credit approval screen for several things, and so we'll take a look at what we actually did there. So I'm just going to pull up a folio. So I'm just going into Find because I know what folio I want to look up. We're going to take a look at George Reynolds. So if we go under More Options and Credit Approvals, essentially what we've done is made it easier to see if the card was originally scanned. So if any of you have the Premier Edition and may have had some SQL reports written over the folio authorizations table, maybe you were trying to determine if a card was scanned or you looked at that table to see if a card had originally been scanned, that information is no longer saved there because the less credit card information we're storing in the database, the better. So we've removed that information, and it was not always accurate anyway, because just because you scanned a card, you could have scanned that card when the guest was about to check in, but then closed out of the folio, went back into it 15 minutes later, and actually did the approval. Well, at that point, that's a manually keyed card because we don't save track data or save any type of scanned information in the system. We can't for PCI compliance. So it would be misleading to see the scan in here under credit approvals because it would seem as if that was a scanned transaction when in actuality it was not. So that's why we're not saving any of these to the folio lot table, which is what is used to display this screen. What we're doing instead is putting, you'll notice the S here. So if this authorization was obtained with a scan, then you'll have the S on the approval. If you do not see the S, and let's just go and look at one so we can see the difference. So we're going to go to 163867. We'll look at Tracy Jones and her credit approval. Notice there is no S in parentheses beside the card, the last four digits of the card number. That is indicating that this was a manually keyed approval. So for whatever reason, maybe the card wasn't present, which you may have some, some manually keyed, but this card was not scanned and the authorization was not obtained with a scan. So it gives you an indicator to be able to see, is your front desk, number one, properly scanning cards at the right time and properly getting approvals at the right time during the check-in process, and number two, are they always scanning these cards, or are they just getting an approval based on the card that was on the reservation and not actually asking the guest for the card. So it gives you a better way to see whether or not the card was originally scanned. And then we also made some changes, and I'm just going to pull up one more folio to this screen to give you an idea of if the card has been increased. So for example, we have a credit approval on this card. It was originally scanned of $172.50, so we can charge up to $172.50 to this card. Well, the guest's balance is already more than that. They're at $334.50. So we know we want to get more approval. Now, because this was originally scanned, the original approval was obtained as a scan. If we change this, we're still going to be processing this as a scan because we're just increasing the approval. So if we need to increase this to $350 to make sure that we have enough payment from this guest, so I just increased it, and of course because of our threshold it goes to $402.50, but notice over here it says 01 next to it. So there's been one increase. So now if I were to change the approval again, maybe now I need to up it to $405. So when I go through, it's just connecting, processing that, obtaining the approval. And now it shows 2. So notice we've increased this twice. Now if I were to check this guest out, so I were to actually go ahead and use that approval, so if I'm posting this charge and I process this, I accidentally selected the wrong one. And it's a Discover. So if we go ahead and process this, now if we go back in and we look at that credit approval, notice it says used and it shows yes. So it's just, we've added these two columns to give you indicators to see, number one, has it been increased, and two, has it been used. We also added a column to indicate if it's an incidental approval. So the I over here is just indicating if it is an incidental approval that you've obtained. So if you got like a secondary card on the reservation for incidentals, maybe the main card is the Expedia card that you're billing for one time, and then you got an incidental card on there for any additional charges that are not being billed to Expedia. Okay, deposit transfers. We enhance this so that it shows not only the reservation number but also the folio number. So when you transfer a deposit, I'm just going to pull up a folio here. So when you have a deposit transfer, it automatically puts in the voucher now the confirmation number, so the reservation that it was transferred from, and the folio number, so where it was transferred to. So it gives you more of an audit trail. So that's been enhanced for version 16. You also have the ability to peek at a current record. So actually we could have stayed on that folio. Let's just go to our in-house. So we're all familiar with the change journal and being able to use the change journal. But if you have a lot of changes, I don't on this particular one, but if you have a lot of changes in here and you want to be able to just see what is current, like what is currently on this record, then you can use the peek at, and that just shows you every field on that folio and what is currently in that field. Rather than sorting through all of the changes to be able to just see what's current, you can also print this. And of course, this is available on a folio and also available on a reservation. So if you have a reservation, you go into more options, change journal, and like on this one, we have a bunch of changes on this one. So if I just am not interested really in seeing all the changes, I just want to print out of what's currently on this reservation, then use the peek at. It's just showing you every field and what's currently listed there, and you can of course print this. We added a tab to the journal to be able to see voids for today. So if we click on journal and we go show voids, this is only going to show you the voided transactions. So notice you've just got the V's. So if you wanted to walk by the front desk at any point during the day and quickly see what voids have been done that day, you can see that. So if you're paying special attention to cash voids for potential theft purposes or security purposes, then you can walk by, click on journal or pull up roomMaster from anywhere, click on journal and go to show voids so you can see them without actually having to print out a report and be able to see what voids have done and what the information is on it, and then of course be able to print this and go directly to the folio if needed, if you needed to see more information. So it's just filtering down the journal screen and showing you only voids that were done for the current audit date. Under night audit and day and close reprint, you've always had the ability to be able to reprint the day and close from the previous night. So if something happened to your printer and the night auditor wasn't able to print the reports, you could come back in here and you could recreate the audit pack and print those reports from the previous day. We've enhanced this in version 16, and you can now print up to 7 previous days. So if for some reason the audit pack went missing from Saturday night, maybe it's Monday morning, you come in, nobody can find it, you're not PDFing them, so you don't have an online backup to go to. So you can come in here and we could say, okay, for Saturday, I want to select all and I want to print so that I get this recreated. And it's just pulling the reports from the night audit, whatever reports you include, and reprinting those for you. We'll cover this more detail next week, but you can also do the same thing for point of sale. Dashboard enhancements. This is another big enhancement that we did, and it's become a really cool screen. It was always a very cool screen, but now it's got even more available on it to give you an idea of where are you at. So it's kind of a look at this screen at any time throughout the day to see how the day's going, where you're at for the day, how many reservations have been taken, what do you have left for remaining check-ins. Maybe you're looking to see you've got 2 desk clerks on for the night, can I go ahead and send one home? So it's just a quick way to see a current status and all of your stats for the day. So what the screen is, it's been changed around completely, so I'm sure if you're seeing this for the first time, it looks totally different if you're used to using this screen. You can now, you've got it broken out into groups. So it's current room stats. Of course, this is all the same information that you've had. And then your current statistics. So this is your projected occupancy percentages, projected revenue, projected ADR for the day. You still have your check-in activity. So this is going to be on the screen over here. Of course, have remaining check-ins. There's one more additional place where your warning displays about your unavailable rooms. So it's letting you know that you still have a room that's in an unavailable status that was supposed to become available today or in the past. reservations entered today, so you have the information as far as what reservations have been entered and where they came from. Were they group reservations, were they IQ WorldLink, or were they standard and RMNet? And then upcoming occupancy, so you can see what am I looking like for today, tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. So it's just giving you today plus 3 days in the future of your upcoming occupancy. Then the occupancy comparison, of course, this has been in the system for quite some time, but we enhanced this to give you some more information. So you now can show statistics on the screen other than just the occupancy percentage. So if we're looking and we're comparing, you know, January to January, so January 2014 to January 2015, and we want to see what our ADR was. So we can show our ADR, and it's just going to be above the occupancy. So we can see how we're comparing ADR for last year versus this year. What are we doing for RevPAR? What was our total room revenue? You know, are we projected to be at the same room revenue for the 31st of January that we were for the 31st of January last year? Maybe you raised all your rates and you just want to quickly see, you know, am I projected to be at the same place? So those were added, and you're just selecting this to be able to display it on the calendar. This is a brand new tab. So this tab is new for version 16. It's called Performance or Outlook. And essentially it's giving you today's performance. So it's telling you how many rooms you have left to sell, what your projected occupancy is going to be, projected room revenue, projected ADR, your RevPAR, and what your rate is for today based on your standard rate, or your default rate, and your default room type. So whatever you have in configuration for default room type and rate. Then it's giving you a 7-day outlook, so you can easily see what you have coming up for the next 7 days with respect to those same occupancy statistics. In addition, you also have unavailable rooms. So you could quickly see if you maybe had planned for next week to do carpet cleaning on your second and third floor, but now for some reason your occupancy is high next week. So it'd be a great screen to come to make a decision on that and maybe put those rooms back in order so that you could sell them because you're close on occupancy. So again, that's under back office and dashboard.
One thing I want to add on that, we did remove the other days because that data was in so many other places. It was in the manager's daily, it was in the manager's yearly, it was behind the back office chart of accounts, it was everywhere. So we did remove that, but I just want to show that when you're on that screen, the performance outlook, if you see the date, notice it says Thursday 1/15. You can click on that Thursday and then go back to all the way at the top. Just click on the Thursday way at the top. Yeah, if you click there, now you can go back a month. So let's go ahead and click back a month and then pull up a previous day. We can then look at what happened on that Thursday and then the following 7 days that happened in the past after that date. So you do have access to past information or future information at any time and the 7 days just by clicking on the calendar, and then it will update that date and then give you that date. So you do have access to that, and that would be where you would get your other day information.
Okay, and then the last two options under general enhancements, and we will move on to report enhancements, is the guest profile email export enhancements. So this option has always been in the software, but we added 2 additional options here: profiles with no future reservations and profiles that are in-house only. So if you are exporting, creating an export of email addresses, and this is if you're using some type of mass email program such as EasyMail, that you can select only profiles that have no future reservations. So maybe you're trying to send out emails at the beginning of the season and you only want to send to guests marketing emails or come stay with us again emails, but you don't want to send that to guests who already have reservations on the books. So you could say profiles with no future reservations, and it's just going to filter out and only include email addresses from profiles that have no future reservation, and then maybe you need to convey something or send out an email to all guests that are currently in-house. So you could say profiles that are in-house only. Maybe something happened in the area. Maybe there's going to be some type of fire drill at the property the next morning and you want to alert guests to that. So you could select this and only export just email addresses from profiles that are currently in-house. And then finally, under the general enhancements, we have enhanced the purge options. So if we go under File, Purge Files, you have some new options in here to be able to purge information. So you can now purge lost and found that's over 1 year. So if you have lost and found items that have been claimed and they're over a year old, you can select to purge those. You also can purge IQ Schedule over 1 year. So if you use IQ Schedule for maybe your spa or for scheduling activities and you want to be able to purge things that are over a year old, events that are over a year old, you can do so. You can purge your accounting export, and you can also clean up or clear your follow-up flags for checked out reservations. So if you have reservations that have checked out and the follow-up flag is still on them, so they're displaying on your quick room screen when you go to look at your flags, you can purge those and it'll just, it's not really purging them, but it's clearing them. Also, we added an option here to be able to unselect all of your general purge options. If, for example, you just want to run your PCI credit card purge and you don't want to purge anything else, that's what this button does. It's just a quick way to be able to unselect everything on the Purge Options tab and only run your PCI. We also made it default to archive the database before purging. So for Premier Edition customers, if you are choosing to purge some of your files, maybe you want to purge lost and found and maintenance items just to clean up those tables some, then the system will automatically do a forced backup at the beginning of the purge to ensure that you have a backup to restore to in the event anything unforeseen occurs during the purge file routine. Okay, we're going to move on to the report enhancements. I know we are a little bit over on time, so we should be able to get through the report enhancements in about 10 to 15 minutes. And so for those of you that would like to stick around to go through the report enhancements, we will go ahead and cover this. And then we'll just move the Premier enhancements to the next webinar. So those will be at the very beginning of next week's webinar. Just to quickly, before we go into report enhancements for anyone that is under a time constraint and does need to go, the report enhancements, of course, are included in the What's New document. So those are detailed in the What's New document, everything that has changed. And then for next week's webinar, if you are interested in attending next week's webinar, I highly recommend it because, as Kent said at the beginning of the webinar, we are going to include a demo of the cloud-based booking engine IQ Webbook, which is coming later this year. So you'll definitely want to do that. Be here for that because Robert's going to demo that at the very beginning of the webinar. And then we'll just add the Premier Edition enhancements and the ISQL enhancements to the next webinar. So we'll start off, after we take a look at IQ Webbook, we'll start off with the Premier. So if you're interested in attending, it's www.enquest.com/webinars is the link to be able to go to get to the register links for all of the webinars. So of course, first one there is today, so this is next week's, it's on Tuesday, and then we start the repeat. So all of these webinars will be repeated, and so the next repeat of this particular webinar is February 4th. So just wanted to make that announcement, and so we'll go ahead and move into the report enhancements. Hopefully everybody can stick around and see the enhancements to the reports. The first enhancement that we made under reports, we're just going to go through these by category. It's the easiest way. So these are in no specific order other than the category that they appear on the reports menu. So the change journal report, we added the ability to do a find. So for example, if we wanted to look at for the month of January, and we're including of course, the detailed information. The new option here is a find. So if I wanted to see every reservation, or everything that's in the change journal, so every reservation or folio that contains the word Christy, then I can click on, I can select that, run this for the first 15 days, and this is just every record that contains Christy somewhere on the record. I can also filter only for that field. So I don't want to see all fields, I just want to see only that field. Then it's going to pull up an only if Christy appears in a field, and it's only going to show you the fields that it appears in. So that was an enhancement made to the change journal report. Also under reservations, we enhanced the group reservations report. So one big thing to note about the group reservations report is that it no longer contains allotments. So if you are using allotments in your system, so if you have group blocks that are set up as an allotment, they will now be excluded from your group reservations report and no longer appear on there. So the only thing that will be included on your group reservations report will be actual group blocks. We did add the ability to do a status selection, so you can see only your active groups or only your tentative groups, only release groups or only canceled groups, and you still have a date range on here as you always have. And so, like for example, if I just wanted to see my active and my tentative groups for the next 3 months, then I just run this report and it's filtered down to only show me groups that are in a status of active, and that's the A over here, or in a status of tentative, and that's the T. So you're on your statuses, of course, your R's are going to be your released, and your canceleds are going to be your C's on this report. So we just added the enhanced the report to make it a little bit more interactive and be able to select which statuses you want to see. So maybe you want to look at all your tentative groups for the rest of the year, just to see what you have sitting out there that's currently tentative. We gave you the ability to do that. Then we have added a transient and group forecast report. So if we close under reservations and we go under forecasting and availability, there is now a transient and group forecast report. You'll notice this has a little green plus sign next to it. So that means that this is a report that is available in the Enterprise and Premier Edition only. So if you are currently running the Starter or Standard Edition, this report would not be in your system when you go to 16. But basically what this report is doing is it's giving you forecasted, this is forecast, so it's future only, but it's giving you forecasted information on your transients versus your groups. So it's looking at your reservations, and it's basically it's saying it's a group if there is a group block or if there's a group code attached to the reservation, and it's saying it's transient if there is no group code attached to the reservation. So you're getting a comparison of what you're going to have in-house. And it's just each day in the future, how many transient reservations do you have, and what's the revenue? How many groups do you still have available to sell? So how many rooms do you still have in a group block? What's your total filled, your occupancy, your booked rooms, unavailable rooms, total persons, and how many do you have departing that day? And then it's giving you an overall total revenue. Then we did enhance the PACE booking report to add the ADR. So PACE booking report is a Premier Edition only report. This report has been in the software for several editions, but what we did, and I'll just run this for next week, we added a column that includes the ADR. So it makes it a little bit beneficial when you're looking at this, trying to make revenue decisions, that you have the projected ADR for that revenue period. So just depending on what the revenue period is that you're running the report for, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, you're getting what the ADR is for that revenue period. And then we did enhance the forecasted revenue report to include an option to run it by company class and company. So if you wanted to be able to see what your future projected revenue is for your companies, then we added a report type. So it's under the report types, new button here that says by company class company. So if we just run this for the rest of the year, Any companies that you have in your system that are not assigned a company class, so maybe you're not even using the company classes, then it's just going to show unassigned, but it'll still show the companies underneath. Then it will show your classes. If you are using some, if you have some companies assigned to classes, it'll show your classes and then each company that falls underneath that, and then it's going to give you totals by the classes and then an overall grand total. So it's basing it on whatever time period you put in and then what reservations are in there for future that have revenue against them. Or excuse me, whatever reservations that are in there for the future that have a company assigned to them. If there's a company on the reservation or a direct bill, then it's going to be included on that report. For Enterprise and Premier Edition, if we go under Rooms and Rooms Assignments, we added a new chart. It's called Room Use Detail. And basically, let's pull this up. Maximize that. Basically, this is giving you some usage information based on your room types. So the first chart that's available is each room type, and for this year, so this would mean January, as of January 14th, you'll see our as of date right down here on the bottom. As of January 14th, this is how many times each room type has been rented, how many nights. We can see in the drop down, here's the other charts and graphs that are available. Room type usage for last year. So by room type, a comparison, so this year and last year. Room usage, so this is individual room numbers, and this is your top room numbers and how many times they were rented last year, so you can see what was popular. Room revenue by room type, so how much room revenue was generated for each room type, and then room revenue by room group. If you are using your room groups, which groups multiple room types together under one group, then this chart will print just your print it by room group so that you can see. So maybe if you have your buildings separated out by room group, then you can see how one building's doing versus another building. While we're on here, just to take a look at another option that we added, this is not specific to this graph, this is for any graph in the system. We gave you the ability to quickly and easily change the series label. So maybe when you run this report, you don't want it to say this year, last year. You would prefer it to say 2015 for the series label instead of the words this year. So when you change it for the first one, it's just going to change it for all. So it automatically updated for all. And then if we do last year, maybe you want that to say 2014. So you're defining it, just quickly changes it for all. And then we close here. Notice it changes over here on the side to 2014 and 2015. And again, that's the editing the series label. That's on any chart or graph in the system, not specific to the room use detail. Just went ahead and covered that one since we were on the room use detail chart. Mass print folio enhancements. So if we go under front desk and mass print in-house folios, this is a really cool feature, especially if you are mass printing. So for example, if you're mass printing all your checkouts and sliding them under the door for express checkout for guests, this is a cool feature to be able to give them the weather. You've always had the ability to include the weather information and be able to say a graphic and then today and tomorrow. But this would be manually typed in and dependent on your employee finding the correct information. You can use the Where on Earth ID, which is using Yahoo weather to be able to pull in the weather for your area onto your folios. So the way that you look up, what I did was I just clicked on the WOA ID, Where on Earth ID, help. That's going to take us to the help text. We've got the link in the help text, and it tells you how to locate your WOA ID. So when you come into weather.yahoo.com, we just click on that link, and then if I put in, for example, I'll put in the office's zip code. So, oops. Let's pull up Tampa. There we go. There's our WOA ID. So when it comes up, it's going to be in the link. So you just locate that in the link once you get the weather for your location. And once we pull that in, you just copy that into roomMaster. And then it's going to automatically pull in, once you hit tab, notice how it automatically pulled in the weather. So every day when you come in and print the mass print, it's just going out to Yahoo, getting the weather based on your location ID and pulling that in to print it on your folios if you're doing the mass print. So like I said, this would be like if you're printing out folio, mass printing them to slide them under the door for express checkout. Under accounting, this is a very useful report, and honestly, one of, minus all the big stuff, one of my favorite report enhancements. You've always had the ability to print transaction history. So you've always had the transaction history report and graph, and that is summary information. So it's giving you a summary total of what you did for each day, total revenue based on account code. But you now have the ability, and this report is Enterprise and Premier, so it's in the Enterprise Edition as well as the Premier Edition, to print the details. So what this is pulling is from your journal. So when you print that journal out each day during the night audit, that's everything that was posted on that particular day. So this report is looking back at the history and pulling the historical detail of what was posted each individual day. And you've got a lot of filter options on here, so you can really get very detailed as far as how you're querying for this information and what information you're including in the report. Keep in mind this is historical, so we're only looking at it in the past. So when we click on the date picker, notice that it's grayed out on our automatic date picker, so we can't pick future dates because we haven't posted things in the future. So it is all historical. So let's say we want to see so far this month. And you'll always want to add an account filter to this, because otherwise it would be way too much information to include in a report and really not make much sense. So your account filters, you build your own account filters, and it's basically grouping account codes together. So for example, we've got one built in here, and we'll just quickly take a look at this. If we just select change instead of just selecting it, this is how you pick what accounts are included in that account filter. So for example, we have all of our room revenue accounts included in this account filter, because when we use this filter, we want to be able to see everything that pertains to room revenue. So you're just selecting, and the accounts go over on the right-hand side. So then once those are built, then you just select them on the report. You can filter this down for a specific room group. You have some special filters here. We can say we want to see all transactions, only folio transactions, only guests with a company, only guests with a direct bill, only guests with a group. So this is saying based on where that transaction was posted. For example, if it was room revenue, if we only wanted to look at stuff that there was a company attached, maybe you're looking at your non-taxable postings that were done against folios that had a company attached, or against folios that had a direct bill attached. I'm going to go back to all transactions. You can even filter down looking for something that the voucher contains. So maybe you're looking for something that was posted. Maybe you have a accounts payable that you're paying for laundry that was sent out, and all you have is the check number, and you know the check number is always put in, but you need to know exactly where this was posted. So you can say the voucher contains and put in that check number, and then your account filter would be for your laundry account codes, and you know the date range, so you're putting in a date range. You can say the posting amount is, so if you know that it's greater than a certain amount that you're looking for, it's less than a certain amount, equal to or greater than, equal to or less than, or you can pull all amounts. And then you've got some totaling options across the bottom. So you can say I want to see grand totals only, I want to see totals by date, or I want to see totals by date and type. So this is just how it's totaling the information. And then finally, if you are in an area that you use VAT taxes or GST, you can show your postings inclusive of VAT so that it shows like your revenue postings inclusive of the VAT charges, or VAT taxes, excuse me, and you can export this to Excel. So once you have run this report, if you need to export this to be able to manipulate the data in Excel, you have the ability to do so, and you can choose whether or not the totals are included when you export to Excel. I'm going to turn those off because I just want to run the report. So I'm going to do grand totals only. I want to see all my room revenue postings from January 1st to January 14th. This is detail, remember that. So this is each individual revenue posting that was posted between January 1st and January 14th. This is just like looking at your journal. So you're getting all of the information, the audit date, the transaction number, transaction date and time, the folio number where it was posted, the room number, what the guest name was, if there was a company attached to it, and what the amount is, whether it was a debit or credit. We've got some adjustments on here, so those show as a credit. Now we said overall totals only, so it's just giving us a grand total. This is the grand total of everything that was posted within that time frame. But we could have said totals by date, or even totals by type and date. So if we did totals by type and date, then it's just saying here's the total of room revenue, account code 100, that was posted on January 1st, January 2nd. So there's so much flexibility and options available with this report. You could pull just about anything, but keep in mind this is pulling from your journal history. And how far back can you go? I'm sure that's a question that's coming up. It will depend on what you have set in your configuration. So if we go to Setup, Configuration, History, you have data going as far back as you are saving journal transactions. If you're running the Premier Edition, hopefully you have this set at 0, which means unlimited, so that you're saving an unlimited amount. If you are Enterprise Edition, you have a maximum setting of 365, so you have a year's worth of data to be able to pull from. And we made some enhancements to the room revenue detail report. So we'll stay right here under accounting and go to the room revenue detail report. Two new checkboxes available on this report. You have the ability, and we'll just run this for so far this month. You have the ability to say room summary only. So rather than I'm running this from, well, can't only run it up until the 15th. I'm running this from January 1st to January 15th. Rather than getting the room revenue for each individual day by room number within that time frame, I can say give me just a summary only. So I just want to see what was my total revenue for each room number within that time frame. And it's going to summarize the information and give you the totals. You can also sort and summarize by room group. So if you need to see stuff by your room groups, then you can check that option, and we can do the same thing. Run this for the first half of this month and sort it by our room groups. So there's my room groups for standard, suites, and penthouse. So there's my total for my standards. Notice that's a combination of DLX room type and DXL. Here's my superior, I only rented one superior, and then one penthouse. So it's just showing you a summarized amount per room group. And then really quickly, 3 more, and we've made it through the report enhancements. The managers daily and yearly, we made a couple of enhancements to these charts. So if we just look at the managers daily, let's look at the first few days of the year. We added a group versus non-group revenue option to the manager's daily analysis charts and the manager's yearly analysis charts, so you can get an idea of what you're doing group versus non-group for revenue. I don't have any group revenue in my demo database, but if I had group revenue, it would be a separate bar, and on the legend over here it would show in green and show group. And then the rate schedule report, if you're using this report to look at the schedule of your rates, we added a filter on here. So if you only wanted to see maybe your corporate rate or your AAA rate or your rack rate. I think my demo database, I only have rate records built for a rack rate. So if I want to filter this down and I only want to see my rack rate or I only want to see my AAA rate, then we added that filter in whatever rate code you're putting in there. The report is filtering down for that particular rate code. And then finally, one last enhancement that we just recently added, and this is very cool, especially if you are sending out multiple reports each day. Maybe you have an outside person that's doing your marketing and needs several reports weekly or monthly basis, or maybe you have a district manager for your set of hotels and you need to send that person not the full audit pack, but you need to send them maybe the manager's daily report, the day and close report, and maybe one additional report. And you're every day you're going in and you're PDFing those reports as 3 separate PDFs, attaching them and emailing them. Well, we added the ability to combine reports and be able to create one PDF. Rather than having to PDF each individual report. So really quickly, I'm going to show you how that works. So for example, I'll just use my example of maybe you have an outside, like a district manager or something that's managing several properties in your area, and so you need to send that person daily reports. So we send them the manager's daily report. So you come in each morning and you're PDFing this and you're going to the next one, you're PDFing it. Now you can use this combine button up here. So what this is doing is combining and collecting the print jobs. So when you click on combine, of course we haven't done any yet, so our add and our empty is grayed out because we don't have a combined report waiting. So if we just say collect report preview for later, so it just collected that report. So it's just holding that. As long as we're signed into roomMaster in this session, it's holding that report. Now we need to also include the day and close report. So we click on the day and close report, we select combine. So I want to collect this one as well because I still have one more that I need to do. So I click on collect. So now it's got both the manager's daily and the day and close reprint held there. And maybe I'm also sending the general journal. So I want to do the general journal for yesterday. So this is my third and final report. So now I'm actually ready to create my PDF. So it's telling you you've got 2 pages collected already. Where do you want to add this final one? Do you want to add it to the top or add it to the bottom? So I'm just going to go ahead and add it to the top. So there's my manager's daily report. Then if I scroll down, notice we got 3 pages. If I go to the next page, there's that day and close report. And if I go to the next page, there's my general journal. So now I've combined all of this. Now I can create one PDF. We'll just save it. Actually, let me go back. We'll save it inside our PDF reports. So we'll say reports. We'll say we're sending these to me. Reports for Christy. So when we save this, we can also go ahead and email it if we needed to, but I'm not going to because I'm just going to pull it up. But you could go ahead and select to email it and delete it once you're done, and you don't even have to save it if this is because all these reports are in the system. But if we just select OK, then I want to go and view that. So I go to display PDF file, and I called it reports for Christy. Unless I save these to a different location. Oh, let me try that one more time. I do believe I saved those to an incorrect location. So we'll just do the 2. And I'll just save them inside my roomMaster. Okay, so there we go. So there's that report. So if we pull this up in a PDF, notice it is both reports combined together. I did two the second time, but it's both reports combined together rather than having separate PDFs. So this is a really cool feature to be able to use if you are trying to combine several reports together, or maybe you need to print out several change journals from individual reservations. And like I said, yes, or folios. And like I said, if you need to email it, then you just select the option to email, and it just creates one PDF of it and emails it all at the same time, and you don't even have to save it. And it holds that, so like if you were adding those and somebody asked you something else, you're doing something else, as long as you haven't signed out of roomMaster, it holds that queue for you. So that combined queue, once you sign out of roomMaster, exit completely, then it's cleared. It doesn't hold it any longer. And once of course, once you sign back in, if you sign back in, you could create a new one. It wouldn't still be holding that queue. So I apologize for the fact that we went over today, and I appreciate all of you for bearing with me on my voice. Hopefully it wasn't too difficult to understand me or hear me throughout the webinar, and I appreciate, like I said, everyone staying and bearing with us to get through all of this. Next week, again, we will have, hopefully my voice will be much stronger by next week, and so the next webinar will be on Tuesday, January 20th, and again, we are pushing the Premier enhancements and the interactive SQL enhancements to that session, and then also during that session we'll be covering IQ WorldLink, IQ Point of Sale, and IQ Schedule enhancements, as well as you'll get a sneak peek of IQ Webbook. So even if you're not interested in seeing IQ WorldLink, IQ Point of Sale, or the Premier, I still would recommend coming to the webinar, sticking around for a few minutes to see a sneak peek of IQ Webbook. I've seen it, I've had a chance to play with it, and it is awesome. So I definitely would recommend that.
The one thing is, if again, I'll talk for you, Chrissy, so you can break, on talking about the upgrades again. If we go to roomMaster and we click on Help, check for updates, if you're on version 15 and you do a check for update, the link that will display there right on the bottom between the Help and Close button that will say you're on the last version of 15, but 16 is available. If you click on that link, it will fully explain to you what you have to do if you're Premier Edition, Standard, or Enterprise, if you're out of the country, who to email to. So all the information is there if you haven't gone to 16 yet. If you have gone to 16, then it will then tell you what to do to get the update to go like from 1602 to 1603. So whether you're on 16 or 15 or 14 or whatever, just click on Help, check for updates, and you'll get the information that you need of how to get to this latest version. One little teeny thing that took me 2 days, so I'm going to mention it. Chrissy didn't show it, but it did take me 2 days to do it, so I have to say it, is that on all, I don't know if you noticed when Chrissy was running the reports, on all of the reports in the upper right-hand corner, we have changed all the reports so that you do see page 1 of 5, page 2 of 5, page 3 of 5. So if you have a good stack of paper and it falls on the floor and you got to put it all together and you want to know if are you missing a page, or for security purposes that you're getting a report from your desk clerks and they're hiding the last page because they want to hide the voids on it or they want to do something for security purposes. But all of our reports, once you go to version 16, you will see the page 1 of 2 of 2. And also on the combine, if you don't like the combine, you can shut that off on the user level, no different than if you go to the user profile and you go to the reports tab of a user, there is that access on report access. It says disable ability to PDF and combine reports. So if that's checked, both the combine and the PDF will be disabled and hidden. So other than that, Christy, thank you so much for trying. You were excellent, of course, and that was thank you for doing it all. And I'm sure you will be better for the next webinar. I'll start the next one with IQ Webbook. I'm not going to be showing you a final IQ Webbook. That is in development. We have developers working on that. That's not going to be out until the spring. But what I am going to show is the landing page and the search for availability and the room carousel and the ability to show the rates and the rate calendar and things like that. So I'll be showing all of that, but not a full web book because that is not done yet. So with that said, thank you, Ken, for opening it up, and thank you, Christy, for doing all the work during this webinar. And so everybody just sign up for the next webinar, and thank you so much for attending, and thank you very much for your business. It's appreciated. Thank you very much.